Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to day one of coverings, and welcome to the Global Tile Trends presentation. We've got an amazing group of panelists today, and we're all thrilled to showcase this wonderful and versatile material, tile. So we're going to have a lot to talk about today. But before we jump in, just a quick reminder, if you can silence your phones, and then if anyone is looking for CEU credits for AIA, IDCC, and NKBA, the CEUs will be available after this session. So just see someone in the back of the room for more information. So if you do need to get those CEUs, this session will do that for you. So before I turn the mic over, we've got Lindsay Waldrop, Vice President of Marketing with Crossville. Lindsay will be first speaking about macro trends. And following Lindsay, we'll have Christina Faedi she's the head of promotional activities with Ceramics of Italy and Cersei. And Christina's presentation will focus on current tile trends. And then we'll round out with Ryan Fassan, and Ryan is the technical consultant and creative development with Tile of Spain, USA, and Santani Tile. And Ryan's going to share the latest from a technical perspective, so we're really rounding out all of everything we're going to see with tile trends. And I'd like to now pass it over to Lindsay for the first macro trends presentation.
Good morning, everybody. So yes, the way that we do this, how many of you have been to one of our trends talks before? Do I have most? Okay, so I see a couple of hands raised. Thanks for coming back. That means we're giving you good stuff. But what we like to do, or what I like to do, is really talk about interior design trends, because I think it's very important from an industry perspective to see where the products that we make, what we sell, what we install, fit into the overall scheme of interior design in North America right now. So I do come from Crossville, but today I'm speaking on behalf of TCNA and all of its members. So as we go through this, you're going to see products from all over North America in the presentation. The show itself here at Coverings has 3 core tenets of design that they really want us to focus on this year: timeless luxury, in the environment and wellness, and outdoor living. So I've taken those tenets and kind of looked at them under a little bit of a microscope to see what that actually means. If you tuned in to Elena's presentation for Coverings Connected back in February, we're going to hit on some of the micro trends that she's talked about and how it all ladders up to these 3 core tenets. So you guys ready to go? Everybody ready? Everybody's caffeinated? Okay. So the first trend we're going to talk about is courtly conduct, and that goes under timeless luxury. And it's interiors inspired by 2 very royal queens. And I love this picture. I think it's very appropriate for where we still are right now, and it's funny. But the inspiration, where is this coming from? History meets pop culture in new forms of entertainment. Maximalism, so that trend of layering and very over-the-top interiors, continues to trend up. Technology, and Ryan will probably get into some of this, is really allowing for vivid reproductions in some of the world's most luxurious materials, including tile and stone. Treating oneself is a bit of an overdue indulgence. We've been living for 2 years in a very kind of retracted space where we really feel like we need to celebrate where we are right now. And then everyone needs to escape. So a little mind candy is on top of everyone's mind right now. That image, by the way, is from this spring's Jimmy Choo bridal campaign. So it's about the shoes, but I want you to make note of the interiors and the white and gold. Because our first trend that Elena went over in February is Baroque style. Now, how many people have over-binged on Netflix and know what this image is? Does anybody know what this show is? Okay, I see 1 or 2. There's a show on Netflix, it's in season 2, in case you want to check it out, called The Great. And these are some examples of the Great sets. Now, Catherine the Great was an empress, She did not build her own palaces. She inherited them from her father-in-law. And her father-in-law's architect was very inspired by Versailles. And he created his own hall of mirrors, loved all the white and gold from the French, loved these deep, dramatic, rich colors throughout his palaces. And because this TV show is now on Netflix, The Great, we're all getting exposed with a little bit of living room mind travel, if you will, to some of those places. And it's actually inspiring the interior design community. And as I said to start out, pop culture is one of the reasons. So what does this white, gold, rich colors, mirrors look like in today's design? Well, this is kind of what Baroque's looking like in a modern aesthetic. Now, you're going to see some things in here that might look a little Art Deco to you, which is a trend we've talked about in the past, but the scale is different. Instead of small geometrics, we're seeing a lot more flow. We're seeing a lot more grandeur. You're seeing a lot of woodworking. Again, that white and gold and dark stone and dark colors coming into play on the lighter side. And on the dark side, you're seeing those rich, rich colors. Again, the teal with the gold, charcoal gray, also a hint of pink and gold, but a lot of depth. And these are definitely those maximalist interiors that I was mentioning. So what does this look like in tile, right? So modern Baroque is really about hyper-luxe in materials that maybe we wouldn't be able to get before or couldn't afford before. So you'll see some porcelain panels in here. The long, skinny 3x12 handmade looking tile in between them, I don't know if it's reading on screen, but it's actually a really, really rich teal. And that comes from Inner Ceramic. You've got mirrored tile from Crossville and Dow Tile on there. And I love this mother of pearl from Jeffrey Court and the pattern tile from Pratt and Larson. So if you want to go Baroque and someone comes into your shop with some of these pictures or loves this style, this tells you kind of where to take them on their shopping and selection experience. Now, the other queen is Queen Charlotte and Regency style. So a little bit of a history lesson here. About 40 years after Catherine the Great, we go over to England. Charles III is reigning. Charles III was a little crazy. And so his wife and son ruled for 20 years as the Prince Regent. And during that, that would be called England's Regency period. Now, there's that little TV show that a lot of people are talking about. Again, season 2 just launched, Bridgerton. Bridgerton is so in pop culture, it's created a reality TV dating show. I just got an email from one of the clothing companies online that I like, asking if I wanted to dress in the Bridgerton style. So this is everywhere. If you're not watching, this is some of the Regency sets that we see there. 40 years later, we're lighter, we're brighter. There's still gold, there's still pattern, but it's mixed with pastels, huge, huge windows, over-the-top draperies, not quite as much layering. So we're backing a little bit off of that maximalism into something that's light and bright and happy. So what does that look like when we're not on the set of a hit TV show? This is today's Regency influence. So you see symmetry and grace. You see large windows, clear crystal chandeliers instead of the gold, but still some gold and those pastel colors. You see a lot of pink and coral and pistachio mixed in. I know some designers feel like the gallery wall is out and we're looking for big statement pieces of art, but not when it comes to Regency. We want to see that, and we love a good gold frame here. So examples of what that looks like in a decor, and then what does that look like with tile? You're still gonna see your panels, but they're not gonna be big dramatic tile veining, much softer, much more subtle, natural stones with more subtle veining to them, and pastels. A lot of pastels, especially in your wall tile. So we have a mix from Portobello, Inner Ceramic, Pratt & Larson, Dow, and Crossville on this particular slide, all TCNA members. So those are our two timeless luxury trends here, Regency and Baroque. So then the next tenet for the show is wellness and the environment. And this one was really interesting because I feel like we're in an era of contrast when it comes to these things. And what does wellness look like for us now, 2 years later, after we all had to go home and we're starting to emerge? And what does that do for us psychologically? And how does that relate to our interiors and tile? So we're at a place of contrasting values. The pandemic stress has got us trying to learn how to balance safety for our health and freedom. We want to get out. We want to go do things. We want to do it as safely as we possible. At the same time, we're in conflict because we're reassessing what we want and need in our lives. Is it quality versus quantity? And quality is beginning to surpass, which is a wonderful thing for this industry. Digital and physical are what's entangled our virtual lives and then our real lives. When we got together as a group, some of us haven't seen one another in person in over 2 years. It's so good to see one another in real life, and yet we were also discussing how we did this last time with Zoom and all of those different ways that technology is starting to blend. And what does that look like for the design industry? And then health and wellness is going to balance with excess and indulgence. Let's face it, we really like to treat ourselves per the previous slide, and no one likes to have to say no to themselves. So how do we balance that healthiness, that wellness, from our Pelotons with a box of chocolate nearby? Just saying. I have actually used one of those with a bowl of ice cream before, and it made me feel really good. So what does that mean in interiors? And thank you for laughing at my joke. High contrast interiors. We're polarized right now. And so we're seeing that in very high contrast interiors. And white was one of the things that Elena spoke about in February. And it's not just white, it's not sterile, it's white with deep, rich colors. And we talked about that a little on the Baroque, this rich color. This is kind of the evolution of modern farmhouse Scandi Japandi. This white cleanness, organicness, but highlighted with these deep punctuations of dark green and blue and black. In tile, we see that, both as the traditional black and white tile, but some very graphic geometrics, bold blues, rich reds, as well as patterning. Portobello America's tile on the far left has that patterning to it. Inner Ceramics on the right has texture to it that goes into some of that maker movement. And then we have Dow tile and Crossville in between with bold, rich colors. So that's how we're going to apply that trend with tile. And then on the opposite spectrum, white. We're over it. So it's color wheel opposites. We're not looking for complementary. We're not looking for things to be soothing. We're looking through bold, big splashes of optimism in our decor. So red and green, purple and yellow, blue and orange, all coming together. It is bright, but it is sophisticated. So in tile, we see that here. The blue and orange, the yellow and purple, the red and green, and the tile to the far left is actually this really beautiful juniper kind of color. So the greens are running the gamut, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So then the last tenant's outdoor living, so we're going to take it outside, but outside's a little different now. Outside is with purpose. It's not great big green sloping lawns anymore. The outdoors and fresh air have always been proven to contribute to a healthier environment for us. Natural materials and biophilia continue to be a contributing factor in design. We're still craving that, but we're craving less of it kind of on the inside as let's just open everything up. We crave transparency. We want to know the ingredients in our food, what goes into our spaces. We want to make sure that it's natural, or even if it's not, what is that and can I pronounce it? And when we couldn't connect with one another, we connected with the land. And people began to see how important their outdoor spaces were for them, not just as an extension of their home, but also going back to that wellness. So this room on the left is actually an outdoor room in an arcade by the designer Bunny Williams. And residentially, we are doing that outdoor room space. Like I said, not big sweeping open expanses, but purposeful destinations. I love the picture on the left by Randy Angel. He's a landscape architect and pool design. He has sunk a living room with a fire pit into the middle of a swimming pool. Again, a space within a space within a space outside. We're opening up all of our French doors and nano walls to just blend spaces back and forth. So with tile, it's really important that we have materials with exterior finishes so that we can do that. We're moving our bars and our entertainments by the pool or into the outdoor. And it's happening in commercial as well. And I really wondered how long it would take for Workplace to catch up. The image on the left is LL Beam's corporate office, and they have created outdoor office space pods on their campus. And I think that's pretty amazing. The image in the top right is Hospitality, a zen outdoor room outside of a hotel with set places for people to have activities. And below it is a hospital and the outside where they have seating areas for people to go outside and rest and wait and do the things that they need to do there. So in tile, there's two things that are happening with this trend. Outdoor tile with exterior traction spaces, and then the biophilic tile, and I chose several different green looks that are, with technology available, are allowing us to get amazing looks and feels that you would not normally be able to get from the original interior. For example, this Del Tonka USA wood look exterior tile. You wouldn't necessarily be able to do that with minimal upkeep with any other type of product. Or Crossfield debuted a new exterior finish back at the last coverings, so that as well. And then these beautiful luxurious greens that help you bring that outside in and then the inside out. So those are what I'm seeing as far as decor trends and how they relate to tile across the United States and why. So with that, I will let Christina tell us more about trends specifically in tile.
I use mine.
That's right.
Thank you.
I need to give you this.
Yeah. Okay. Which way?
The big green.
The brick green. Okay, here we are. So, welcome everybody. I'm really very, very happy to be here because last year we couldn't fly from Europe to here, so we missed 2 editions of coverings, but now we are here in presence. And I would like to give another perspective. We are on the same page on different topics, but I mean, my vision is slightly different because, okay, I would like to express the never-ending possibilities of Italian ceramic tiles. And these 2 years that we spent at home, because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown, because of smart working, let us think of our inner self, of the space around us, and also even beyond, because we realized that actually our place was not only our home, the place where we used to eat or sleep, but actually it was our office, so the workplace, it was the school of our children, it was the place where we wanted to relax, and it was also the place where we had our fitness center in a way. So we understood that we have to think about a new way of living, so rethink our homes and our places. And we experimented a great desire to be in the middle of nature. So to go, since we couldn't go out from our home, we wanted to go outside, to leave the outdoor spaces in the open air. So, and this is very, was felt hard and strong. And another thing that we thought about is what surrounded us in our home. So what kind of material are in our homes? Are we really aware of what we buy? And of course, I'm talking about tiles, but we want our place, the place where we are forced to live 24/7, to be a healthy place. So sustainability is involved too in this issue. So considering these main trends, I find out that our members, for some representing here the Italian manufacturers under the name of Ceramics of Italy, consider these trends in their products. So I have many slides to show you, but I'll be fast. So if you're ready to start the journey, I will start from the colors, because the colors are the expression of our emotion and our feeling. So blue is a real protagonist, and blue is the color of the sky, of the fresh air. So there is this desire to be in nature. And blue comes also with a paintbrush in combination with our neutral colors, or even in denim fabric, or thanks to the new technology of big slabs, also in blue precious stone, like this onyx, blue royal onyx, or lapis lazuli, we say in Italian. I don't know the English for that. Yeah, so not only blue, of course, but also soft tones. So we are on the same page for that. We have, out of the blue, we have sage green, we have powder, we have ivory, we have sands, we have cotto, let's call it like that. And again, it's in combination with neutral stone, like we call it greige. But we also want to take some lights in our places, and that's why we have, in several trends, gold and even copper, and pink. Pink is the symbol of motherhood and also rebirth, because we want to give birth to a new life after the pandemic. These tones are also tones that give us confidence in the future. Very soft tones with a very soft surface, like velvet effect, like this one. And green, light green. So we call it clean mood board, because we want to bring at our home some cleanness, and we want our home to be tidy and to be healthy, because we want to feel good in our place. And transparencies. We have tiles that looks like glass or water. So it's the light green, but also the dark green in polished or matte finishing for a total look. And we cannot talk about nature without mentioning Mother Earth. So Mother Earth, cotto, so like a sort of reflowering, because it's made of earth. It's just very simple. It's something that drives us back to the artisanal look of tiles that is made of earth. And here you see all the materials, the clay that are mixed, and even little tiny stuff that are on the surface and in the full body for special effect, until we mix the different colors, like rust with oxidation in blue or green, until we reach the total oxidation in green. And fragments. So not only big slabs, 3 meters wide and so on, but also small fragments. We start from kintsugi. I don't know if you know that. It's an ancient art, Japanese art, that uses broken pieces of tiles. It glued together with gold and give new birth to something that was broken and is still a piece of art. And this is a tile that is inspired by kintsugi. But at the same time, the new technology take inspiration from the terrazzo tiles, or what was the traditional, we call it in Italy, Venetian flooring. And, but the performance of these products is much stronger than was in the past, and there are tiny pieces of marble in that. So we have something that goes back to tradition, but is very, very contemporary, and it comes in different colors, very modern, like something more classical on the right and more modern on the left, and more modern on the right, and with color hints here. So you can have endless possibilities, as the name of my presentation. And these terrazzo tiles in this version can also go on the floor and on the wall coverings. Colors are different, and always due to the new technology, this occlusion comes to the surface and we have this tactile effect. And talking about tactile effects, I mean, it's very strange, it's very weird, because in the era when we are not allowed to touch ourselves, to hug, to even shake our hands, because we have to keep a certain distance and so on, our members try to figure out tactile effects on the surface. And I think that's because the ceramic material claims for the strength of the material itself, which is very, very strong. And we go again, we need nature, like this bamboo, or dots, or like floral decoration. And even the ceramic wood has this veining, very evident, and sometimes they look like fingerprints. Okay, luxury was one of the topics of this presentation, so I had to include it. This is a famous statue in Rome. And we can't but mention the ceramic marble, because the expression of the marble, thanks to the new and the most sophisticated technology, gives us these huge slabs with incredible effects, very realistic, and so realistic that the technology can even create marbles that don't exist, because they mix together some veining and create different effects. And again, we found this Calacatta white that reaches a very high level of whiteness. So it's very white, very pure, and it's combined with the color like blue that we were mentioning before. And these slabs are very flexible and can go in every kind of environment, from residential to commercial. And you can see that they are so special that you can start from a detail, like those fireplaces on the left, and architecture itself, like in a big size, like the one on the right. And again, not only residential, but also hospitality. So you have luxury environment here that are enhanced thanks to this kind of tiles. And golden hints, so brings light into these tiles. So again, we want to bring some light in our places in different way, but also in the veining. So gold goes also in the veining of the marbles, and not only Calacatta or Statuary marble, but also black marble like Saint Laurent, or different stone, precious stone, with super polish effect, like the one on the right that is in a shower. Maybe you can see it from, yeah. And very precious stone of any color in matte and polish finishing. But what we see in the newest trend are this chromatic dominant in colors. So they find out this way of get inspired by the most extraordinary marble coming from all over the world. So we see again green, light green, or turquoise, or dark green. Again, these are marbles. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know the name of the real marble that inspired these ceramic tiles and slabs that are even better than the natural material itself. But they come from Brazil, from Amazonia, from the granite from South Africa and Asia, and also the Alps. So the effects are really amazing, I think, and very precious, like this onyx or geodes, I think you say, and red, a lot of red that comes in stripes, veins, and flames also. Yellow, and you see you can also mix this kind of marbles for a master bathroom, if we talk about hospitality, master bedroom, swimming pool. But not only that, if you look at the picture on the right, you see that there are tiles on the floor, on the countertop, on the backslash, right? On the table, on the benches, on curtain walls, and coffee table. So, a lot, from tiny things to big things. Frescoes. Fresco is very Italian. I mean, it's a way of decorating the entire wall with paintings. Now we are doing the same thing with the slabs. So not only marbles, but real pattern. We were talking about nature, and we find nature also here. We were talking about blue, and again, nature in blue. Like they were water colors, like fading on the slides, and wallpapers in different colors. Again, we have some golden hints that give light to the interiors, but also matte and polish finishing that gives a sort of relief surface. And this is because we want nature to enter our homes. We want flowers, we want plants, we want leaves. We want to feel good at home. And the jungle look, or tropical look, gives amazing effect, very special. So, inside, outside, we use the same words to describe how our place has changed. So, it's a unique place. Our home is not divided into rooms, but the kitchen merges with the living room, and the dining room merges with the patio, for example, because we want to share our space with the people we love, and family and friends also outside. So I asked our members to send us the pictures of the new style trends, and I received tons of images of swimming pools. So this reinforced my idea that everybody wants to get to go outside and live in open air space. And so it was hard to decide what to place in the presentation, so I put a lot of that, but I want to bring you like in a sort of tour of the world of never-ending possibility with tiles. And so we have an infinity pool in a place that looks like Mediterranean, a terrace and a patio, but also ancient villas. It could be, I don't know, maybe in Tuscany, or in France, Provence, or in Puglia, in the south of Italy, like this. But also, ceramic tiles can furnish also the city center of historical cities, but also the apartment like in Paris, or villas in the Caribbean, or Atlantic Sea, in the mountain, in the lake. So this bricks is the same brick. One is used in a kitchen or a restaurant, and the other one is in a courtyard. So you can see the versatile of the material itself. You can see the same material on the facades, external facades on the left, and in the patio on the right. And again, talking about hospitality and wellness, this is a shower area, a pool, relaxing area, and hotel reception, lobby, rooftop. And special pieces like stairs or tiles for wet areas. Again, special pieces for the swimming pool. And tiles can then be laid without being glued on grass, on sand, for walkable paths, and also driveway. And here's the secret of hidden perfection for this kind of installation, so raised floor, and also very thick floor for urban landscape. So this is the tour that I prepared for you. I invite for sure to walk in on the show floor to see more and experience yourself the tiles from Italy. Thank you.
So now I get to give you a bit of the Spanish perspective, and I find it incredibly interesting that we never talk about these programs. And yet we always wind up finding a different perspective, and they all build on each other. We all tell the same story, but we just get to it in different ways. And by the end of it, we wind up telling the complete story of where we're going in this industry for this year. So again, I took a different perspective. I gotta say, I've been teaching on Zoom for 2 years now, and I hate it because I can't make eye contact. So I'm really grateful to be here with all of you guys, and that you're all here with us. So that's my little preamble. But this presentation, my section, it sort of looks at how we're changing our spaces, how we're changing thinking about our spaces, and what that's doing for us as an industry in tile, and how we kind of play into the zeitgeist of how we're changing the conceptuality of our spaces. We have, as everyone has said, a completely different relationship with our built environment than we've ever had before. Our lives have changed so much in such a short period of time, and the building industry doesn't change that rapidly. And yet we're having to ask the building industry to change because the needs of our spaces are so different. How many people in this room have a side hustle? Lots, right? I know I have a couple. Everyone's life is so hybridized. We're changing gears hundreds of times each week. We're changing gears tens of times every single day, and all of the spaces that we're doing all of these different things in are having to adapt. And so that's a huge thing for us in tile. And it starts to build a lot of the trends that we've been talking about. All of the product development and research that's going into the products that we're creating today are for this hybridized lifestyle, because going to work is no longer a verb. It's not a place that we go to. It's not a noun, it's a verb. Because we're not going somewhere all the time, we're changing gears, we're doing something. And oftentimes that's in whatever place we're in. It might be a cafe, it might be our house, it might be our office. And so on every level of development, we're looking at different ways to create adaptability and inclusiveness for our spaces, from city planners down to developers, and then into our interior designers and our product designers that are creating the materials for them. So it's a completely different thought process that we're going through today in product development. There we go. And what that means for a lot of our clients, for the end users and the designers that are creating the spaces for them, is this need for cohesion, for materials that are contingency agnostic. It's something that I've been kind of bringing up over and over for the past couple of years. Materials that don't care what level of use case we have, what kind of soil we've got going on, how many times we have to change gears, and how many different things we have to do in our space. But designers want to be able to use the materials that they want. As we've talked about, and I'm going to get into some of the technology in a second, tile's one of the only things that actually can transition from material to material and do it authentically. And it's something that I'm challenging people more and more, because I've heard so many times, oh, I don't use faux. I can't use anything fake. It has to be the real thing. And I think that that's something that everyone needs to reassess and think of whether that's actually still true or not. When you can walk this show and touch the material, and that's, another thing Christina brought up, being able to touch this stuff and see what it actually does. And everything in this space is 100% ceramic, so it's all easy to clean. So there's one maintenance regimen, there's one performance characteristic that goes on in these spaces, and this industry has the capability to create that agility for this hybridized area that we're creating spaces for. So it has to be able to support multiple use cases. And our manufacturers, as we've seen, they're creating programs that aren't standalone programs, because it's this wide gamut. All of those trends that we've talked about go from multiple periods of history. There's multiple levels of maximalism and minimalism throughout it. But being able to do all of that with one material characteristic is an incredibly powerful thing for designers to do something for this new lifestyle that we're finding ourselves in. So what does that mean in terms of tile? A lot of us have talked about color. I wanted to just sort of bring up sort of the main palette that was in a lot of the paint forecasts for 2022. If you notice, most of them are very desaturated. They're about 70% desaturated tones. A lot of them have a filter to them that they're neutrals, but they have a hint of green, a hint of blue. And then they give that reason for that punch of that saturated color, which is, you know, the 30% of the rest of their colors, because we're using color differently in our spaces today. Color is so important in telling that story. And we use it in a few different ways. The one that everyone sort of catches on to really quick is when we use it as a foil, as that punch of color, that punctuation in our space. That's that bright and vibrant color that is in contrast to, say, the whites or the cleaner spaces, cleaner colors that are going on around them. The other way we do it is we play with saturation a lot today. We use filters a lot like artists do when they're painting on a canvas or doing any kind of 3D art. We'll use a lot of filters where we'll put a rich color on top of something else to just give it that hint, that nuance. So we're using greens on top of grays and reds on top of greens to give those layers of contrast, to build in all of those tones. We're seeing a lot of play with temperature, and we're kind of staying in one temperature wheelhouse, one color space, unless there's a very good reason where we need that punctuation to step outside of it. The other thing that we get to do, because we work with glazes, is play a lot with finish. So when we want a color to read exactly as the color that it is, we do that hyper matte finish so that it doesn't matter the quality of light around it or the time of day. It always reads gray, red, green, whatever we need it to. We add gloss when we want it to shade and change as the time of day or the viewer's perspective changes throughout a space. So what design in our industry is all about, it's all about growth and adaptability. And again, inclusivity. That's something that's coming into the vernacular in design as well. We're seeing changes to how we name our spaces, because the name and the language that we use has a lot of power. And our product doesn't really care about the boundaries. It doesn't matter if there's a wall or a delineation of space, because we can change in scale, in color, or in material reference without it impacting the client's lifestyle or the usability of that space. So warmth is something that's really big in the industry right now. Our whites are not sterile. They're not feeling cold. Even our whites, our neutral tones have a lot of warmth to them, and we're seeing that in a lot of the colors that come into the impact tones that we're using with them. We all talked about form and finish, and that's something technically that we've never been better at in our industry, because we can use CNC machining in our molds to create some really fine textures because of the way that we're doing our pressing now. And that's layering with digital technology so that we can create this multi-sensory authenticity. That's something that I found incredibly difficult, getting press kits over the past couple of years and not being able to physically touch the material. It doesn't tell the story anymore. You can't look at a press kit. You can't, just see the images on this screen without walking the floor here and actually going and touching them to see that, holy smokes, I can actually feel that marble vein or that wood grain or those raised chips that Christina was talking about in the terrazzos. And the chips don't necessarily have to be all over. That's another thing that we're seeing, is they're coming in little pits and pieces throughout the scope of our tile program. So it's giving that organic feel, that ingenuity that we can then use to pair with all the other programs. So that's this sort of chip off the block, and using these chips gives these multiple layers and all of these different colors that we can play off within our programs. And it really highlights how our manufacturers are building their entire collection to all work together. That allows the ability to mix and match and create a style that's unique to every space that we're creating. Steve Jobs fell in love with the rounded rectangle, and it builds into a lot of those organic curves, is building into a lot of the historical styles that we're embracing. And we're seeing, again, some revival of some ceramic historical styles. Lindsay brought up the Versailles Palace and the Versailles pattern. That's a modular pattern with unrectified edges, and multiple modular patterns are coming back into a lot of ceramic programs that gives that organic feel that we're seeing for both exteriors and we saw in small format wall interiors. And then to contrast with a lot of these organic forms and these rusticated looks, we're seeing in contrast a lot of crisp, and that's where our rectification programs are coming in. A lot of crisp linear lines and a lot of the cool, soft, spa-like tones are coming into these crisp programs. The other thing that I love is that there's this rebirth and love of classic ceramics. I tended to talk a lot about high technology, and I love that as stuff happens, as problems arise, we're falling back in love with simple things that we've done forever, and we're doing them incredibly well, using just strategic hints of new technology to bring a new life to something that really is just a part of our history. It's a part of everything historically, architecture. Everything that we know about historical architecture, we only know because the ceramics actually survived. And we're seeing that revival of a lot of these classic ceramic programs. So finally, I just wanted to talk very quickly about, it's very important that we're asking questions about what are our spaces asking about from us in order to take care of them. That's building into a lot of the decisions that our design decisions are changing because of we're asking a lot more about what our spaces ask from us. And it's just a last sort of note that there are a lot of nanoreactive coatings that are coming out that are actually improving the cleanability and hygienic nature of ceramics. So that's something that's worth talking to a lot of the manufacturers about. And that's the end of my portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, Christina, Lindsay. Such a great perspective. And I also want to thank everyone for somehow wearing the trends. I mean, I love that we all bought it from the screen to the stage. This is also a great example how you see trends sort of weaved throughout. And so I love that. And the trends do continue because you are going to get to walk the show floor and see so many of the beautiful images in person, to touch them and see them. It just makes such a difference when you can experience it like that. So there's so many great things, I think, right now that's trending. It's wonderful. But we also have a lot of opportunity for questions about the trends. So if we do have any questions, please raise your hand. And we have a mic runner. We will get them to you so you can ask any of our panelists. And if we have any questions at all, just raise your hand. No questions. Well, they covered it so thorough. That's why we have so much great information. Anything at all? Well, I would like to thank our panelists again, and thank you all for attending and spending some time with us here this morning. And I hope that you enjoy seeing all of the trends and everything that Coverings has to offer. And I do want to just quickly point out that the themes that were sort of woven throughout, wellness and the environment, luxury, as well as outdoor living spaces, Coverings has 3 great trends tours that are going to be happening throughout the show. So please refer to the app on the information of those tours, because it's another opportunity to kind of take it one step further, see all of these trends and sort of in each of those pathways. So thank you again, and I hope that you all enjoy the show. Thank you to our panelists.